In a small village surrounded by thick forests and flowing rivers, there lived a man named Obina and his beautiful wife, Nkem. They were known for their kindness and peaceful home, but one thing troubled them: they had no child after 8 years of marriage. At first, Obina did not let it bother him. He loved his wife dearly, and assured her that children would come when the time was right. Nkem, Biko, please, stop worrying yourself. It will happen when it is meant to, he would say, holding her close whenever she was sad. But as the years rolled by, and nothing changed, the pressure from family and villagers increased. There was a time Obina was asked to keep quiet at a village meeting, when he stood to make his own contribution towards settling a dispute between two families over a land. In the heated argument, he was reminded that he is not a man, as he was yet to prove it. People began to whisper behind their backs, and some even suggested that Obina should take another wife. Obina, now deeply worried, decided to seek spiritual help. He and Nkem visited many spiritualists, dibias, and priests, hoping for a solution. Some gave them charms, others gave them herbs, but none of it worked. One day, an old wise seer in a distant village told them, "No matter what you do, you cannot force destiny. The gods have written the time." As they waited, Obina often found joy in playing with and buying gifts for their neighbors' children. He loved children, and this was his way of expressing his fatherly instincts. But Nkem saw this differently. She believed he was mocking her of not being able to conceive like other women. Each time she saw him laughing with the children, bitterness grew in her heart. The pain of barrenness turned her into a troubled woman. She often caused trouble in the village, but people overlooked her actions, not wanting to provoke her further. Hence, they distanced themselves from her. The pressure became too much for Obina, and after much troubling from Nkem, he took a second wife, named Adaeze. As fate would have it, both women became pregnant almost the same time. Adaeze got pregnant the second month of her marriage, while Nkem got pregnant the third month after Adaeze got pregnant. The joy of the family knew no bounds. As family and friends were happy for them, they believed the second wife, Adaeze, brought good luck to the family. Nkem and Adaeze were living happily with their husband until after the delivery of their babies. Nkem gave birth to a girl, while Adaeze bore a son. Instead of rejoicing, Nkem became consumed with jealousy. She saw the boy as a threat to the full and undivided love her husband would have showered on her daughter and her future children, so she took every opportunity to maltreat him. This caused constant quarrels between the wives. Obina often cautioned them, sometimes punishing the offender when necessary, but the rivalry never ended. Tragedy struck when Adaeze fell mysteriously ill. At first, Obina thought that it was just a mere illness that would heal within a short period of time, but to everyone's amazement, it dragged into months. Despite all efforts to heal her, it got worse each passing day. Finally, Adaeze passed away, leaving behind her 5-year-old son, Ifeanyi, at the mercy of his stepmother, Nkem. The boy's suffering increased. Nkem starved him, forced him to do all the house chores, and beat him over the smallest mistake, and always quick to remind him of his deceased mother. While the younger stepsister Olachi would cry seeing him in that condition, but her mom would assure her that she was doing that to him to ensure he grew up into a strong man in future, and most times tried to distance her child from playing with Ifeanyi, except when her husband was at home. Even some of the villagers pitied the boy, but feared intervening, as Nkem had become notorious for causing trouble. Ifeanyi found solace in his father's rare moments at home, but as Obina's business trips increased, the boy was left completely at Nkem's mercy. She ensured he ate last, slept on a mat near the fire, and wore ragged clothes. His only friend was an old woman, named Mama Ugo, her late mother's friend, who secretly gave him food, and whispered words of encouragement. My son, your destiny will surely manifest. One fateful day, Obina traveled to another village for business, leaving Ifeanyi alone with Nkem. In those days, some foods and items were considered sacred, and must not be stolen in that village, such as yam, coconut, and sheep. Anyone caught stealing them was buried alive. That afternoon, Ifeanyi returned from school, exhausted and hungry. Nkem, with a deceitful smile, called him and begged, my son, please, help me pluck some coconuts. I need them urgently, as I have paid the owner for it. She went to show him the coconut tree to pluck from. Trusting her, Ifeanyi climbed the tree and started plucking them. The moment he did, Nkem started screaming, thief, thief. Villagers rushed in and saw the boy on the tree. Without giving him a chance to explain, they dragged him to the palace. The elders convened quickly. The first eyewitness was called to speak. Being Nkem, she said, oh, King, may your days be long. I have tried to raise him to be a good boy to himself, family, and society, which brought the altercations I had with his dad, and some people around, who thought I was just being mean to him. He is also my son. I tried several times to stop him from stealing at home, but it proved abortive. He has taken it outside of his home, by stealing the coconut, which I saw him on top of the tree. While I was coming back from the market, I could not hide it, so I decided to alert the villagers. He has to bear the brunt of his actions. When Ifeanyi was asked to speak, he explained how she asked him to help her pluck some coconuts, as she had already paid the owner, but nobody believed him, and the judgment was swift, death by burial. Ifeanyi pleaded with tears, which streamed down his cheeks, please, don't bury me, I was sent by my stepmother. But his cries fell on deaf ears. The crowd were of mixed feelings for him, as his father was just coming back from his business trip. When Ifeanyi was about to be buried, he quickly begged for his son's life, that he would pay times 10 of whatever he had stolen, but judgment had been passed. Ifeanyi was buried alive that same day towards the evening hours. But the gods saw everything. Obina returned home a shattered and battered man. He was in shock of the fate that befell his only son. He was aware of the hatred his wife had against Ifeanyi, but never knew it could get to that level. He only had his daughter, who cried along with him as regards what happened to Ifeanyi, and both of them cried themselves to sleep. During the night after the burial, a strong whirlwind blew, and a mighty thunderstorm struck the village. Some people still receiving the cool breeze of the night had to scamper for safety into their homes as they wondered what could be the cause of such storm, as it was long the village experienced such of its kind. A powerful bolt of lightning hit the burial site, exhuming Ifeanyi's body, unharmed. But the same thunder struck Nkem, sending her to her early grave instantly. In the early hours of the morning, Ifeanyi lay beside the grave as if dead. His body was covered with earth. Suddenly he opened his eyes when he heard the voices of some of the villagers. A town crier saw him early in the morning, and ran home, shouting that Ifeanyi was alive. When one of the people ran to call Papa Ifeanyi, he met him in mourning mood, as his wife was dead. The news of Ifeanyi coming to life, and her stepmother, struck by thunder, took over the entire village, and beyond, as it spread like white harmattan fire. People trooped in from all corners of the village, to see for themselves the wild event. One of the women said that the gods had vindicated Ifeanyi. Obina ran to the burial site, and found Ifeanyi alive, covered in dust but unscathed. Overcome with guilt and grief, he wept bitterly, clutching his son. He vowed to protect him, and never let him suffer again. Obina never prayed for the death of his wife Nkem, but he was happy that Ifeanyi was alive, which showed that his wife was the brain behind the fate that befell his son, and karma had taken its course on her. She was taken into the evil forest for burial, as it was the custom of the people to bury anyone that committed a sacrilege in the evil forest. As Ifeanyi grew, his story spread beyond the village. Many saw him as a child of destiny, spared by the gods for a reason. Obina did everything in his power to make up for his past neglect. He hired the best tutors in the village to educate his son and trained him in the ways of leadership and justice. Despite all he had suffered, Ifeanyi remained kind-hearted. He often spent time with the poor, giving them food and sharing words of encouragement. He learned the art of storytelling from Mama Ugo, and soon, people gathered in the evenings to hear his wise words. He told tales of justice, perseverance, and truth. One day, an opportunity arose for Ifeanyi to prove his wisdom. The village was at war with a neighboring community over a piece of land. The elders could not resolve the dispute, and a battle seemed inevitable. Ifeanyi, now a young man, asked for permission to mediate. At first, the elders hesitated, but his father, Obina, trusted him. Ifeanyi traveled to the enemy village, unarmed, and spoke to their elders. Using his wisdom, he recounted the story of his survival, and how the gods always favored justice. He reminded them that war would only bring suffering, and that true strength lay in making peace. His words touched their hearts, and after days of negotiation, a truce was signed. The two villages, which had been enemies for decades, became allies. Ifeanyi's name spread far and wide as a peacemaker. As years passed, Ifeanyi's influence continued to grow. When the village chief passed away, the people unanimously chose Ifeanyi as their leader. Under his rule, the village flourished. He established a system where every accused person had the right to defend themselves before any punishment was given. He abolished harsh and unjust traditions, ensuring fairness in all matters. He built schools where children, regardless of status, could learn. He ensured that no child suffered, as he once did. The villagers praised him, saying, "Ifeanyi is a king of peace." As he grew older, Ifeanyi never forgot the lesson of his childhood. He often visited the grave of Mama Ugo, the woman who had shown him kindness when no one else did. He ensured that no widow or orphan suffered in his kingdom. When he passed away at an old age, the entire region mourned him. Songs were composed in his honor, and every year, the village held a festival to remember the boy, who had been buried alive, but was spared by the gods. Moral of the story is this: envy and wickedness lead to destruction. What is meant to be, will always find its way. Remember to subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done so, give this video a thumbs up. What part of the story interested you the most? Leave your comment in the comment section. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video.